Hello, hello, hello. G'day, Alexis. G'day, Jack. How are ya? Oop, I better put that on silent. Have I come through yet? No. Transition. There we go. Okay. I don't know what is going on. Things just aren't working correct today. G'day, Jack. G'day, Alexis. Yeah, I just thought I'd jump on and do some editing. Just I'm trying to have a nice cool day today. So yeah, it is what it is, as we all know. Just setting up my ability to view things at the moment. So yeah. Just all right, sweet as. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Whack-a-mole with the software. Just having issues. Trying to just it updated today too, so getting in there and making sure everything's running right. So now I'm up to that one. How are we all anyway? You're on break there, Jack. It's nice to see. How long's your break for? Is my latency? Apparently I'm getting really bad upload. Not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Is apparently everything seems to be fine on the streaming. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You just have to put up with it. Maybe my computer systems are having an issue. Or it's the internet because, Optus here in Australia got knocked out a few weeks ago and they're having issues. All right. Just a few minutes while you wait for deployment. Fair enough. Now, you saved a ton of money on your car insurance. Why does that sound like an ad there, Alexis? Did I have an ad in my stream, did I? Interesting. I didn't think I had that as a setting. Oh well. Once your code changes are deployed, you get a test if the mole you've been working at. Fair enough. I'm not sure what that means. You'll have to explain it to me there, Jack. Codes. Yeah, IT. All right. Yep. Duh. I'm not fully switched on today, which is why I'm not outside doing in the forge, because it's one of those days where I have a feeling that I'm probably going to hurt myself. So I just thought I'll do something safe and not risk severe injury. Put that there. Put that there. Yes, Proudust, you're here. I can see you anyway. And I appreciate you. Now, I've got to open up a new folder. Save a new folder. So that's volume 81 to 84, 19, 20 to 21. G'day, Stefan. No worries there. You don't have to stay long. Thanks for dropping in to say g'day. Wow, that's that is a fairly substantial staving there, Alexis. Very substantial. Let's zoom in on this page so you guys can actually see what I'm looking at. Let's see if it refreshes properly. Alright, so let's rename that, and that is volume 81 to 84, page 57, and ornamental lamp bracket. So what I'm doing, for those of you that haven't been watching me previously, I'm going through and actually saving some information, particular pages, you know, so you can see, you know, an ornamented lamp bracket, and these will be going into the book so you can actually have a look at the historical way things were made and a little bit of an explanation and stuff like that. So it's going to have a whole heap of different projects to do outside of, you know, what's typically in, you know, most blacksmithing books. It's going to have a wide variety of stuff. Let me see if I can add, because I mean I've shown you my written notes, but I'll go through and show and see if I can add a source, so I can go through and show you all. All the different sources that I've got and just how much information. No, not that one. No, not that one. That one. Okay. Move that back over here so I can see what I'm doing. Right, so there we go. Yeah, Stefan, I'm making a writing a book called. It's going to be called The Blacksmith Companion. G'day, Rob. Saw you not long ago. Yeah, I'm writing a book called The Blacksmith Companion, which is kind of going to be my, in my opinion, I'm trying to make it like the next practical blacksmithing. So it's following the same vein of practical blacksmithing, and it's going to be a collection of articles. It's going to have my voice in it as well, but it's all going to be a collection of articles, bits of the books and stuff like that from the classical blacksmithing period. From I've got sources. Hang on, let me go back and show you. Right, so this is all my public domain stuff. So as you can see, I've got a whole range of, there's 4 different magazines from the 1800s, and then a whole heap of different books and PDFs that I've got. So let's go into American Blacksmithing, for example. So that's a book, Blacksmith and Motor Shop. So I've got that folders upon folders, and as you can see, I've got, and every single folder is pretty much like that. So I've got heaps and heaps of PDFs and stuff like that with all different information from, you know, and I've still got more books to actually get actually on my system and stuff like that. But it dates back all the way back up from the 1600s all the way through to the 1930s ish. So yeah, so heaps and heaps of information. I'm still gathering it all. I have actually started writing, but yeah, it's going to be called the Blacksmith Companion. Is Try to go out and feed the horses and tease them. Fair enough. Yeah. So let me see if I can bring up that. So let's hide that. See if I can bring up that page. All right. Nope. So you guys can have a look at what I've done on the books so far. Second, I've got to get back to it. Let's add another source so you guys can see. Window capture. I want that. Why is it not letting me do that? That's massive, that's why. Okay, let's bring this down. Otherwise you won't be able to see what I'm actually doing. I'm still working out how to use this software properly. Sorry. Okay, so let's transition over. So there. So and bring it up so I can see what you're talking about. Yeah, so hang on, let's go back to here. So I've already started working on the actual book. As you can see, there's a lot of red marks. Let's scroll up a bit so we can go back and have a bit of a look, a bit of an introduction. Of course, the contents page. I wouldn't say I'm a collegiate blacksmith. G'day, Josh. How are you? Long time no see. So a bit of an introduction, and of course we go into chapter 1. Talk about forges and tweers. Talk about some of the old style of the forges and stuff like that. A couple of pictures and whatnot. Then we go into the different types of tweers and whatnot. And some of the old in the past at school, blacksmith schools and stuff like that, use downdraft, which actually suck the smoke and whatnot out and then up into a system. But then we go into basically building your own forge. Improvised forges and stuff like that. We've got a couple more plans to go into this. How to build your own portable forge, how to build your own portable forge, and the different bits and pieces needed to make it, blowers and tweers and stuff like that. And then into homemade tweers, so for your bottom blast or whatnot, different styles, bit of a design for a home built underblast tweer and whatnot, and then further into bellows, and how to make your own blowers, both electric blowers and bit of a designs here for improvised double bellows, box bellows. More blowers and stuff like that, and going in a bit of information about forge fuels. These sections are by no means anywhere near complete. I've got a lot more information to add into them, and fire tools and whatnot. And later on, there'll actually be a section on how to. I'll add in how these will are all forged and whatnot. Building forge fires and from different fuels and whatnot, because that I'm writing it from a perspective that I also understand that not everyone has access to the same forge fuels. Like for example, I've never used coal or coke. I just can't get it where I am for a reasonable price. I'll be spending far too much to get what would be considered decent blacksmithing coal or coke where I am. So I have to use charcoal or gas. I also got in the information I've got maybe a bit of a plan on building an oil forge. And now I've got to clarify. I've got to do a little bit more research to clarify if that's actual oil. For example, you can use if you can use used motor oil or something like that, or if that's fuel oil as in kerosene. I've got to clarify that up a bit better. But yeah, so it goes into, I've got a bit of section on why coal gets wet and stuff like that. Then a section on anvils. Now, and how to secure them and whatnot, and shop layouts, and then bit of history on powered shops and whatnot, and then we go into actual forging techniques, etc., etc., etc. So, so that's the plan. Let's get rid of that, so I can go back and see what you guys are talking about. So this is what I'm doing, what I'm working on. Just saying, I was watching Rob's live stream a little bit earlier, and I'm actually doing a very basic rundown of anvil patterns as well. I'll have in the anvil section, I have a basic rundown of different anvil patterns. So your London pattern. Then I'll have I have information on the Berkshire pattern or the Birmingham pattern, your Portsmouth pattern, French pattern anvils, French pig pattern anvils, Spanish pattern anvils, Italian pattern anvils, all that. So it's not going to be as in depth as the anvil book, which is a very, very more complete. I think it's called Anvils in America or something like that. It's not going to be anywhere near as complete as that. But so, you see questions all the time of what type of anvil do I have? Well, if I can give a little bit of information on a person to start looking at their search. I mean, I believe Rob has a Portsmouth pattern anvil. And so that's useful in the sense of it's very similar to a German pattern anvil, but the actual conical horn is slightly stepped down, whereas with a German pattern that's all one level. So one level, that German pattern anvil that face is all one level. And then you've got another one. I've got it in my notes here somewhere. So another one which is also very similar to a German pattern anvil, except both faces are stepped. So that one is so I think that's a Yorkshire pattern anvil. So that's where both the squared horn and the conical horn are both stepped down from the face. So that way people can go in and go, oh look, there's this is as opposed to this is a German pattern anvil, this is actually a Yorkshire pattern anvil, for example. So G'day ACB. As there probably will be some. This isn't a project that's going to be finished anytime soon. It's going to be relatively soon, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I also have plans for, which, for example, on my own design and my own calculations. Like I have a plan for a bicycle blower, which will go into the blowers section, which is completely built out of recycled bicycle parts. And I have the calculations for the different gear ratios and whatnot to make it actually work. Now, there'll probably be a coloured photo of that because I intend to build it. One of the things I've got going on with my student is when I finish building my workshop, my big workshop, I actually intend on basically getting him to set up his own forging area. But he's got nothing. He's starting with nothing. So much like I did, the start and ending, I'm going to get him to build his own anvil,
or either that or I'll donate him tiny. But, you know, I'll get him to build his own, you know, box of dirt forge, we'll build the blower, you know, we've already started him making his own tools and stuff like that. So, you know, that getting that into, and so as part of that process, I'll be taking photos of the builds and stuff like that. So there will be coloured photos in the book as well. You know, but there will also be a lot of drawings and a little bit of new content and a hell of a lot of historical content. So, yeah, I've got lots and lots of information. I'm actually a bit concerned personally that this is going to go from one book, and then it might actually, I have so much stuff that it might actually have to morph into more than one book, simply because of the sheer volume of information I have. Why does that look like it's repeating? Okay. I've got my YouTube screen up on the left here. It looked like it was just going over the same thing over and over again. But yeah, so anyway, I'll get back into what I was doing. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But yeah, I also, Alexis, I also have I will have a plan, a design for a cupola, an easy cupola furnace in there. So, you know, I have a cupola in the information that I do have here. So that will be available in the book eventually. Now I've got to go back into that. There we go. All right, and that was a blacksmith in the wheelwright. Yep, and 81 and 84. Sweet. So yeah, and Rob, that's true. I've got so much information that might go into separate volumes. I was kind of trying to aim away from that because I wanted it to be accessible to as many people as possible. And when you're starting to get more and more volumes, you know, that starts to get, you know, like if, for example, if I price it the same as Practical Blacksmithing is priced around $40 US, then, you know, say I've got 3 volumes, that's $120 US, which starts to price people out of the market. I don't really want to do that. I want to try and make this accessible for as many people as possible, as to get you know, newbies and experienced people and you know, have these resources at their fingertips, so they don't have to spend. I mean, a bit like I've said before, I've researched this research has been going on for 2 years, you know. So see you, Jack. Have a good one. You know, I want to be in a position where people can pick up this book and have all that information at their fingertips, as opposed to doing what I'm doing. And you know, I'm just lucky that I'm a major nerd and I enjoy doing this type of thing. But yeah, again, having those people have that information at their fingertips, not everyone's like me, and they can go, oh, you know, and have that right in front of them and not have to wonder. There is information about swage blocks, and also how to, there'll be information on how to make your own, you know, swages and forge your own swages, as well. There's not really much information on the use of swages, even in these historical manuals, simply because they're one of those tools which is I wouldn't say intuitive, but kind of intuitive, in the sense of, you know, it's a depression. If you're making a round bar, you use a swedge block and a top swedge, and it's a forming tool. It's not really a forging tool. It's more of a forming tool. You know, some swedge blocks have the through holes for punching or for using hardies in and stuff like that. Then you've got you got your shovel or spoon swages, which of course are used to form shovels and spoons, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those yeah, swedges are a really interesting tool. It's like a cone mandrel. You know, there's a lot you can do with a cone mandrel, and a lot that used to be done with cone mandrels. But you know, they're kind of like, they're one of those tools which are kind of, I wouldn't say self-explanatory, but you've got a cone mandrel, you're going to be using it to bend things around, you know. So you've got a swage block, you've got, you know, you're going to be using it for shaping things, and a lot the reason why swage blocks are not anywhere near as common as anvils and hardy tools is because a lot of smiths didn't use them. They might, you know, of course, swage blocks are kind of the second ubiquitous tool, or third ubiquitous tool after a leg vise. But there were a lot of smiths that just had a variety of hardy tools that they used for it instead. You know, it was only really once you got into that necessity to have, you know, like a lot of cartwright and wheelwright shops and the carriage makers would have had swage blocks because, you know, they were making axles, for example, so they needed those, you know, those round or square bottom swedges on hand all the time. So that would have been a tool that they really had to have access to all the time. Whereas your average local smith, you know, he might have just used a hardy tool because, you know, he might have just been repairing axles. So, you know, he didn't need to have that tool on hand all the time. The frequency of broken axles, you know, whilst it was moderately frequent, it wasn't an everyday job. So it wasn't something that he had to have on hand all the time. Someone that was making, you know, spoons or shovels or fireplace tools or stuff like that, as, you know, like for example, as their main job, or as something that was happening on a regular basis. Again, they would have had a shovel swedge or whatnot available because that was the job that they were doing all the time. Whereas a local smith, he might have again had just a hardy tool. So even in the historical documents that I'm going through, there's not really much of that that information on how to use hardies, of how to use swedges. There is a substantial amount more on hardy tools and making hardy tools to suit certain jobs. So yeah, in the modern day you can use a stump or an angle grinder. And of course they did that back then too. It was, you know, they'd make a temporary swedge out of a stump. Of course, you know, if they got into a situation where that was becoming more, that particular job becoming more frequent, then of course they would make, or they would order a specialized swedge. And another interesting thing, going back to the anvils, is the amount of specialized or custom anvils that people actually had. You know, there's a picture I've come across. I'm not sure if it's in. It might be in a different one. Just a second. Let me have a quick look. See if but there's actually a picture of an anvil that is 90 degrees. The anvil is really, really interesting. It's got a 90-degree bend in it, basically. Nope, that's not the one. I'll just go back and see if I can find it for everyone, and bring it up on the screen so you can see. There we go. All right, now let's go back to there. Let's go to transition. Right, so yeah, so this actually shows you. Yeah, you can see on the screen a 90-degree anvil, which is really, really odd. And of course, in my research, I've come across a couple other examples of odd or unique anvils as well, which don't fit, you know, any sort of regular pattern. So that's interesting in and of itself. yeah, so which is really unique, you know. And then as part of that, so this is going to be included in the book as well. But yeah, so we can, this just shows that custom or specialized anvils, particularly those that were, I think these ones were actually manufactured by, I don't think it was Peter Wright. I think it was Eagle Anvils in the US. But yeah, it shows that, you know, these customized or unique anvils weren't uncommon. So as an extension to that, having a custom or swage block probably wasn't all that uncommon either. So you could contact the manufacturers of whatever, the anvil makers and whatnot, and probably get a customized swedge in order to get your needs met. So yeah, so that was interesting. I've come across some really awesome information that I've gone as I've gone through. So yeah, but it's been fascinating, some of the stuff I've come across. Now, so got to bring up the new page. Yeah, and I think that one was specifically might have been for anvil. Plough making, and then of course, I believe it was Peter Wright actually had a plough maker's anvil. So on a London pattern anvil, we know that we've got the square step, and it steps down onto a chisel step. The plough maker's anvil actually had like a 45 degree to that step down. So the face of the anvil was actually rhombozoid. It wasn't rectangular. So that they had that angled edge in order to shape plowshares and stuff like that. So that's another thing that, you know, was interesting and apparently was relatively common. There's ads for it in these magazines. See if I can go through and find one actually. Once I actually download and save these 2 pages, and then I'll scroll down. When I scroll down to the next section, I'll actually have it. We'll go for a look for it. So just got to rename this. That was page 90. No, Stefan. You have a lovely sleep. I hope you wake up well rested. Well, you're gonna have ACB. You'd have to have a really strong magnet. Depending on the salinity of your water, you probably find that if they're in there, they'd certainly be fairly well preserved, particularly if they're under the mud. But yeah, if the salinity is bad, they might have rusted away by now. You know, it depends on when they were dumped in there, or at the end of the day. That's what it really comes down to. Okay, let's see if I can find this ad for a plowshare anvil, because I have seen them, because I've got them. I've got notes on them. Nope. And some of these old ads are really cool. Some of them are terrible, but some of them are really cool. And Goodyear tires, back from the early 1900s, when they started, you know, first making wagon tires. And they had pneumatic wagon tires too, which was interesting. Yeah, advertisement for helve hammers and, you know, all different sorts of things, which is really, really interesting. It's champion ads. I'm actually, another project I've got on the side at the moment, I don't know if any of you will be interested, but I'm actually going to be trying to get some steel print, you know how you can get those steel printed art of, you know, old advertisements and stuff like that. I want to do the same thing for blacksmiths advertisements. So, you know, we can put it up in, you know, put it up in our shops and whatnot. So, you know, that's an old example. I've also noticed that there's a lot of older ads. It's an old ad for Trenton. There's a lot of older ads that were actually feature a lot of scantily clad men. So yeah, but that was rather interesting as well. Right, so I'm going to 100, page 114, 10. So yeah, so I've already gone through and I generally, when I'm at work, if it's not overly busy, I'm at my regular job, I actually go through and do all this research and write them down, so that when in a situation like this, I can come back and I'm not having to spend time reading. Like, I've read most of these articles, and over you know, the period I've been researching, to make sure things are, you know, useful as opposed to just fluff. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of reading. But that's why, like, I've got these written down so I can go back to you know, specific pages and get, you know, what is useful and what's not. Yeah, hey, and ACB, if you end up finding those anvils, you know, then yeah, I wouldn't say you could flood the market, but, you know, do them a bit of cleanup, and unused Vulcan anvils, that would be, like, amazing, wouldn't it? Sure, they might be a bit rough, but, you know, unused period Vulcan anvils would be cool as heck. But, you know, they might have tossed them in the river because they were unusable or whatever, you know. But you never know until, you know, I hope I wish you the best and find them. That'd be really cool, you know. No. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Just find them, and I mean, if you do, take a video of it. That would be, I mean, keep it, you know, on the hush hush. But yeah, but, you know, but yeah, take videos of it, because that would be so freaking cool. Okay. And here's actually an interesting one coming up for you guys to look at. You know, this is a design for a forge built entirely out of concrete. And this is actually going in the forge building section. It's got, you know, proper plans and everything for it, as you can see. You know, designs they're all in Imperial, which of course I'll actually go through and add metric to it as well, because, you know, I'm with the you know, most of the world that I still use metric. So that's 135. But, you know, for people who might have access to, or easy access to concrete, or, you know, actually this type of design would be really interesting to build out of Roman concrete. But yeah, so, but there's, you know, full design for it. So that's 135. grateful if I can spell. I just wrote Fjorge, not Forge. Good thing I'm not swinging a hammer today. Oh, that's right. I went to a different page, didn't it? Yes, 138. No worries there, Rob. You go pay attention to your family. Send them lots of love. Give them lots of hugs. That's what you're supposed to do with family, isn't it? I do have to organise time to go see my dad. Oh, I just deleted that. I do have to organise time to go see my dad this week. I'll make time to go see my dad. Because I do love my dad. My dad's pretty legendary. My dad is one of my heroes. Always has been. And if you haven't, this is your reminder. If you like your parents and you get along with your parents, this is your reminder to to take some time and give them a call or give them a visit. This week, particularly this month, it's coming up to silly season, coming up to Christmas. It's a time when seasonal depression does kick in. So make sure you spend some time to go and at least give them a call, if not go and visit. Of course, I do understand that not everyone's parents are perfect, and some people, their parents aren't around anymore. So, if you have family or friends, make sure you give them a call and just check in and see how they're going as well, because that's important too. On my notes, I realised I had one up above, which is gates and hinges, which of course is a little bit of a sidestep, but from the Forge. But that's how these old magazines were. They were all they had sections, but their sections weren't. It's like they were still figuring out magazines. Because their sections weren't regular, they'd be all over the shop in different organisations each month. So, different orientations each month, which is really, really odd. Right, what am I doing? I am going to that page. Right, that is... Right, and I did something silly and I didn't write down the page number for this one, so now I've got to find it manually. I do know it is between 137 and 204. That's alright, we can go looking for those weird anvil designs again. Is that it? Yeah, it is. That's the one. That's what I want. That's what I want. Do. That's what I want. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask me any questions about what I will be including in the book or might want to include in the book, or if you have any ideas of what you want to see. This is for the community. It is for all those blacksmith or budding blacksmiths out there. Drop a suggestion. I've got no issues. Sure, this is quote unquote my project, but it's still it's still for all you guys and girls out there. That would also help if I could spell that correctly. I can't even spell spoon correctly today. It's horrific, I tells you. How's the stream going? Is it too jerky? Is it going all right? It's saying it's not receiving enough video here, but I don't know what's going on. Leg, foot, shoe. There we go. Let's see if these anvils... Punches and shears, tire platforms, all sorts of wonderful ads. Horseshoe nails. Basically, around the turn of the 19th century, early 19th century, 1830s, 1840s, people making their own anvils practically, not anvils, nails practically stopped. The machine nail pretty much became the standard at that stage. And you'll see information here on oxyacetylene, because this, of course, is the early 1900s here. But they've oxyacetylene and stuff like that, because by this stage, oxyacetylene was a staple in, and even to a certain degree, electrowelding was a staple in most blacksmith shops. And that was because they started working more and more on cars and stuff like that. I mean, look, this is a whole section on the machine shop. So most blacksmiths had drills and metal lathes and all that type of thing as well, fitting piston rings. This was the all within the realm of regular blacksmithing. Okay, this 161, do I have this? I don't have this. Why didn't I have this? Oh, it's because it wasn't really relevant. Okay, too easy. And look at these handsome young lads, 5 blacksmith musicians. And they were playing the anvils. And they were from Oakland. And there's also stuff like that in these magazines. Just sometimes the look back in time. I found out the other day the first blacksmith shop from when the US was first settled. They had a blacksmith shop that was built in 1640. That was only demolished like at the end of the 1800s for a block of flats, like a housing and stuff like that. It had lasted from 1640 right up through till the late 1800s, and then it was demolished, which was really, really sad. It was like, wow, that had survived that long, and then it got demolished right at the end, which was really unfortunate, because it would have been really cool to have that bit of history still, kicking around today. But it is what it is, you can't sometimes, you can't get on the forefathers for doing what they did in order to get where they are now. We'll get where we are now. I know that, so here in Darwin, or here in Northern Territory, and Darwin's relatively close to where I am, the first blacksmith shop that was here was built on what was called Fort Hill. Now, Fort Hill is a dock now, and of course, you would, being named Fort Hill, you'd reasonably expect that it was a hill. And as part of my research into blacksmithing in my region, I found out that it was actually built on the leeward side of Fort Hill. But in the 40s and 50s, they completely leveled the hill. So it's gone. It's not there anymore. So there's no hope of finding where the original blacksmith shop was, because the whole hill's gone. It's flat land now, which was, really, really interesting. And then there's no real record here that I can find that alludes to any other main blacksmith shops here in the Northern Territory, or here in Darwin. Anyway, I do know there's a wheelwright's pit in Katherine, which is a couple hundred kilometres, a couple hundred miles from where I live, and that's still protected. But you're also bearing in mind that the Northern Territory of Australia really wasn't settled properly until post World War II, 1950s, 1960s. There were people up here and stuff like, and particularly Indigenous population, not discounting them, but there were white people up here but prior to the 1950s, but it wasn't a massive population. So yeah, there's a Trenton Anvil advertisement. Solid wrought from new steel, not cast. Recessed base stand firmly on the block. Made in all sizes with all desirable clips. Ring like a bell and perfect in shape. From the Bocker Cutlery and Hardware Co. Columbus Forge and Iron. So yeah, interesting. Like I said, I like reading those old books. What would be really interesting in finding finding the old Lafayette welding plates and seeing, because I can't find any information of what they were made out of, but apparently they were welding aid, like borax or whatnot is a welding aid. These were a welding aid, and I can't find any information on them anywhere. So yeah, that was it'd be really interesting to find something on them. Yeah, the old cork, for snowshoes and stuff like that. Really interesting. This is a corking machine, practical horseshoeing corking machine, and yeah. And Little Giant was a term that was used quite a lot for everything. We all know Little Giant power hammer, but Little Giant was a term that was used across a whole heap of different things back then. It's just, yeah. Well, thank you, Trail Dust. Don't go stealing it from me. I'll put it out there now. I'm sure someone has already done it. But yeah. I've got a really good friend that's an artist, and I'd like to get her to colorize some of them as well, which I think would be really interesting too. The old style, colorized advertisements from the term. I mean, look, this is an Everready ad from the early 20s, and they go back to the 1800s. But yeah, because Everready was actually Prestolite. So yeah, and Oxywell, the acetylene companies of oxyacetylene. So really, really interesting. Still seeing if I can find those weird plow ambles. And just seeing some of the old, advertisements, like old companies like Goodyear. We all know Goodyear's an old company, but looking at this, it's like, wow, they really are an old company. And then of course you come across companies that you'd never even heard of. The Kerry Hard Power Hammer. Has anyone ever heard of a Kerry Hard? I haven't. But then, something like Boraxette, the company that makes Boraxette, they still, through blacksmith suppliers, I believe, you can still get one of the welding compounds that they used to make back then. So, some of these things still exist and are still being manufactured. And there's a Little Giant power hammer advertisement. American horse and mule shoes. It's just trip down memory lane in the Buffalo Forge Company. So yeah, I'll skip to what I'm doing now. Oh, I'm nearly there anyway. Look at that, 204. See, this is a section that'll go into the fuel section because it's, about solid fuels. G'day, Eric. I'm sure I said g'day, Jeff, but just in case I didn't, g'day, Jeff. Yeah, some of the old ads are pretty cool. Even some of the, like, particularly in the old science and sci-fi issues and stuff like that. Even some of the silly ads, like your X-ray goggles and stuff like that, they were always fun too. And things that you couldn't get away with now because people would actually expect them to be really, X-ray goggles. Even though, everyone would reasonably expect, sure, they're really X-ray goggles, whatnot. But they were just so corny or so cheesy. And this is a section on oxy welding. How to build bodies for different cars and whatnot. Did I have that? Yes, I did. That was 211. Right. Yeah, exactly, it was probably only a jet car that was like this big, but some of the ridiculousness that happened. But then again, going far enough back, back into the late 1800s, you could legitimately order through mail services stuff like uranium, and it was in a whole heap of different stuff as health tonics and all that type of thing. It was like, you look at some of it, it just blows your mind what you had. And even some of the recipes in here, it calls for arsenic and all sorts of just toxic stuff that you just can't get a hold of anymore, for very legitimate safety reasons. But but and some of the stuff they use for protecting metal that would come into contact with people's food, it was kind of like, wow. You wouldn't ever do that now, but some of it's just mind-blowing. Surplus army jeeps that you had to assemble yourself, yeah. Well, the Jeep was a revolution in car design back when it, for the World War, because it could be, and I've seen demonstrations where the old World War II, what they call Jimmy's Jeep, they could be completely disassembled and reassembled within 15 minutes by like 5 or 6 guys, and that's from a crate to completely assembled, started and running from, and you know, 5 or 6 guys just completely done. And that's like, wow, you know. There's actually a rumor, because as we know, the US generally didn't bring much of their equipment back from the overseas areas of engagement, particularly during the Second World War, and it's known for that to this day. But in the part of Australia where I live, there are apparently 1 or 2 areas where basically big pits were dug, and your old Jeeps, Harleys, all that type of thing, still in their crates, were just pushed in and then covered back up. And they're still, theoretically, they'd still be tarred, wax papered and tarred to be, theoretically, and of course they're still in their steel crates. There's a good chance that some of them would still be operational, but no one knows where they were. So, or if they do, they've already cleaned them all out. And nowadays they'd be they'd be collector's items. B, they'd be relics of the Second World War. So they'd be also, they'd have to hand them over to museums and stuff like that. So but they'd be worth a fortune if anyone knew where they were. All right, what page am I going to? To 35. Oh, it's a bit of an artistic one. This on the freestanding lamp. Wrought iron lampstand. And as you can see, these are some of the projects I intend on putting in, and of course, they have some sort of diagram on how to do it as well, so it's not completely blind if you ever decide to try it. It's actually a law here, Kevin. If you get caught, it's okay. So with even with like treasure ships or whatnot, the sunken ships off the coast of Australia and stuff like that. If you find them under Australian law, the museums have the right to first. You can sell them technically. Stuff like that, but the museums have the right to first dibs. But when it comes to war relics, there's a different set of laws that cover it. So, and war relics automatically belong to the Australian War Museum, no matter where they are in Australia. There's nuances to it, but pretty much, you'd have to prove that you've had it, and you didn't just find it. It's not really a case of finders keepers, that sort of thing. And then you have the added complication of, technically, whilst the US wrote it off, it technically still belongs to the US Army. So if you ever found them, it's kind of one of those, I wonder how I can actually get away with this type of thing. But yes, no, I wish I'd found one because that would just be cool. Even just to find it would be freaking awesome. One way to go down in the history books, that's for sure. Oop, need to reply to a message just a second. Ah, yes. Whoops. Was that just the one page, though? I believe so. Yep. Painted pink. Well, yeah. But what if you need to order parts? You know, can you give us the VIN number? Sure. Give him the VIN number. What the hell is that? That's a bike that's nearly 100 years old. No, it would be cool. What's this one called? An ornamental grill. Okay. Put the page in first, Adam. And besides, you know, the military green of the old you know, bikes and stuff like that would add to its value. Oh, I hear my dog barking. I might just have to step off for a second, go have a look at what she's barking at. Back in a sec. You stay there. I'll be back. upstairs now that the sun isn't blaring directly on my face. Right. See you, Jeff, if you're still here. You're probably barking at a wallaby. VIN number. Hey, don't you guys have VIN numbers in the US? I thought you did have VIN numbers. Yeah, both of my dogs are out the back barking at something off in the bush, so it was either someone travelling down my boundary, or next to the boundary because I've got a road easement. It's not actually a road, just an easement. So either travelling down that, or it was a wallaby. Most likely it was a wallaby. I mowed my lawns yesterday, so they'll be coming through to get the fresh shoots of grass. It's not quite wet season yet here. We've had a few light rains and the green succulent grass is starting to come through, but most of it's still dry. Yeah, I thought you'd had VINs over there. Right. I don't know why I've got my headphones on because I can't. It's not like I've got sound coming through. I'll take them off. Doesn't make any sense. I'm used to having them on from when I do the podcast. G'day, Sam. How are you? Yeah, I'm used to having them on from when I do the podcast, so I can hear Yamis and Alexis. But I've got no one on the other end. Told you my brain's not working properly today. Which is why I'm being safe. Now, this more than one page? That was the question. No, it wasn't. Okay. No, it was. Yeah, there we go. No, it's all right, Alexa. You don't need to jump the Discord. Oh yeah, the joke on the VIN on the Jeep was 6. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Don't pick on me. I told you I'm not very bright today. Not very bright most days, but you know, particularly not today. All right. So like I said, if you have any suggestions or desires of what you'd like to see in the book, don't hesitate to make a suggestion. I've got my notepad here. I'll write it down so I'll remember it. Yeah, I can be very dense. I know how that feels, Sam. I did a week of forging the other week in it, and yeah, nah. It's not that hot here today, but as I've previously stated, my brain isn't functioning on, it's only running on one cylinder at the moment, so it's just safe for me to stay inside and away from anything dangerous. Sometimes you have to make these decisions for your health and safety. Jesus, there's a fair few files on this one. This particular one today. You would too, Sam. You would 100% trade, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. You'd be there in a heartbeat if you could. My wedding, right? And Sam got the short end of the stick when he came up for my wedding. God love him. It had been lovely and cool. It had been beautiful. It had been like 20 degrees Celsius days. All the way to the week before my wedding in August. And then like the day or day after Sam, like the day after the wedding or whatnot. And Sam had been here for a couple of coolish days, but it started to warm up. And then the day of the wedding, it went to like 40 degrees, and it was stupidly hot. So 40 degrees is like 100. I believe it's around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And it went from nice, really mild days to just dead hot. It was absolutely ridiculous. And we thought we planned it for like a relatively cool time too. It just happened that week. It just went to absolutely ridiculously hot. It was still a nice time, but Yep. Sam's a polar bear. The colder it is, the better. The more he likes it. If I ever bought a property in Tasmania, right down the bottom. Actually, not even right down the bottom. I know it snows in Launceston. So if I ever bought a property in Tasmania, I'd just say, "Hey Sam, move over and look after for me." But I'd make sure it was on a little bit of decent acreage. I go outside in 40 degrees Celsius. The other week I was working. It was ridiculous. I did 4 8-hour days in 40 degree Celsius weather. I was dripping sweat every day, but I didn't like doing it. And then we have the juxtaposition where I go down and see Sam, visit him his workshop, and in the middle of winter, which is 5 degrees Celsius, and Sam's loving it, and I'm freezing. Start the forge, and I'm just about sitting in it. So I get my discomfort too. No worries there, Sam. You can always have me running on the phone in the background there, bud, if you want. Love you, bro. Love you, Big Fudge. I'll talk to you, Ron. I've never actually forged in single digits. I don't like single digits weather. I am a tropical person through and through. It gets below 20 degrees Celsius and I start to feel bloody cold. I saved that page? Yes, I did. Like I wear jeans in 40-degree weather. You know, I look like a... If anyone followed the Instagram of my wife and I in Tasmania, you see a few photos of me. I'm wearing like 4 layers. And it was only, 15, 16 degrees Celsius. I was freezing. No worries, Trail Dust. A jewelry steamer. Is that for like disinfecting, or what's that for? I used to work in a jeweler. I've never heard of a jewelry steamer. Well, that depends. I mean, like it got that cold. It got to like -5 in Tasmania, but up, had the camper, and I was, had the camper and that kept fairly warm. So as long as I get dressed before I go outside and get cold, I'm fine. and on that same note, right? I've seen the footage. Generally, Mr. Coffee has some sort of fire pit going and stuff like that. So I'll probably be standing in it. But yeah, I'm still absolutely looking forward to trying to getting the quad state. And here's a challenge for someone that's my way inclined. This here is a picture of the blacksmith shop that's in the basement of the Capitol building in the US. Right? It would be really cool to see if it still exists. Even if it's not still set up, just being able to get down there and get photos of it as it is now would be freaking awesome. Although it's probably highly restricted, but still. I'm actually downloading this to have it as a story in the book as well. So yeah, to read it, it goes, how would you like this blacksmith job? To the building where he works comes lawmakers, men whose names are on everyone's list. All this seems to make little difference to him, however, for he works on day after day without seeming to realize the importance of his position. His shop is located in the basement of the United States Capitol, and while he did not confide to us just exactly what the nature of his work was, he denied the story that the horses in the frieze around the rotunda of the famous building are reshod every year. We suppose that administrations may come and administrations may go, but the smith shop goes on forever. So yeah. Yeah, I would think it'd been repurposed by now and probably repainted and all, but the area would still have to be there, you know, and maybe there's, you know, reasonable to believe that maybe even the forge itself is still there, even if it's used as a shelf or something like that, you know. It is in the basement. Might just be used for records, who knows? But it'd be really interesting to see if it was still there. You know, the building was, of course, the actual structure and what the structure looks like now, you know. That would be cool, you know. Yeah, I think that really depends on how big the shop is there, Eric, you know, like, you know, like I was watching Rob Huff earlier today on his live stream on Facebook, and you know he had a big shop. Trying to heat that up would be an absolute monster to do. That would be nope. I mean, it could be done, but yeah. And I tried to do some research into the Capital Smith shop, and I couldn't find anything other than that photo, pretty much. And that's on Google, of course. That reminds me about cooling down shops. I've got to see if I can source a whirlybird to suck the heat out of my shop when I get it built. When I get it completed, I should say. Got the frames up, I just got to get concrete to do the foundations and then basically put the sheet iron on. And the biggest weight is trying to get the money together to get the concrete for the foundations. So the frame's up, but I don't want to put the tin on because if we get a cyclone this year, the whole thing will blow away. Thus the hold up. Otherwise, they'll be working in it already. And a whirlybird is to help. I don't know if you guys have those things, but they're basically a cylinder with a spinning thing on top which helps draw out the heat. That one's done. One, two, nearly done this section. Nearly done. 395. That's what I want this one for. An easy forward by Mr. C. Smith of Pennsylvania. But yes, in this I've got a section from the Australian Coach Builder and Wheelwrights magazine as well. So stuff exclusively from Australia too, which is really interesting. But they won't open up and give it the newer volumes because apparently it's got something to do with they're held by the New York Library, but anything after 1912 is the ones that the are over there, and it's like they've got the volumes available up to 1912, but 1913 onwards are still locked for some reason, even though they should be out of copyright. But it is what it is. Can't really help it. Oh, gotta rename that one as well. Okay. And hoof nippers. Now I've got Thank God I'm a Country Boy, the song, stuck in my head. I don't know where it come from, but that's just how my brain works. I get earworms like that just out of nowhere. And of course I can't sing it because YouTube's lately been really strict on copyright infringements. Arm & Hammer brand wrought iron anvils. Let's scroll down to the next one. Look at some of these old advertisements. Mayer power hammer. That was a electric motor but belt drive. Webster selected smithing coal. Practically free from sulfur, apparently. This is what I'm talking about some of the advertisements had, scantily clad men. I think it's supposed to be Atlas, but, And there's another one. Buffalo Tools. Rather suggestive, don't you think? Yeah, that one, Alexis. 'Tis a funny, funny riddle. Early to rise, early in the sack. They knew their market. Yeah, something like that, I suppose. Damn it. And one thing I'm actually deliberately staying away from, surprise, surprise, and this will surprise most of you, is the history. I'm staying in these books. I'm staying away from the history of blacksmithing, right? Too many books cover, some sort of blacksmithing history, whatnot. I'm staying away from trying to go into all the nuances and where blacksmithing started and all that type of stuff. I'm staying away from it, right? It's superfluous knowledge that doesn't need to be in this book. That will probably cause a few people's jaws to hit the floor, me saying that, but it is what it is. That's it, Alexis. Maybe they were just appealing to the manliness of it, like the statue of David. I'll turn that on too. What am I doing? 4:15. Next page. And what was that for? A stand. And this is actually a really good one to show welding, particularly by this stage. Electro welding was something, or oxyacetylene welding was something that was common. It's got weld here and weld here and weld here. Shows that they were using welding, and that's not fire welding. It was electro welding. Or oxyacetylene welding. Exactly, the whole this'll like Axe body spray, this'll attract the ladies. Sorry, I can't say that statement without laughing. I'm sure someone's going to turn around and go, "What? Axe body spray doesn't attract the ladies?" I'm sure there are ladies out there that are attracted to it, but it's like swimming in cologne before you go out. It just doesn't work. The fine art of subtlety. I never said I was good at subtle, but I'm about as subtle as a brick. Just ask my wife. What's that one? This is axe repair. Oh, I've got 8 likes and apparently 3 concurrent viewers. How many viewers have I got at the moment? Still 3. That's alright. Average view duration is, 17.5 minutes. How long have I been on for? 9:30. Oh, wow. An hour and a half. It's flown by. I didn't realise I've been on there. G'day, Kev. How are you, mate? Ah, that's what that one was for. A prepped portable forge. That's what it was for. You always see the portable forges empty. Alexis, that's what I smell like most of the time. I just stink. What's that doing there? That's what that's doing there. Hang on. Don't. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. I try and do that. It's what this book's about. This book, I'm trying to make it so that any person at any level of blacksmithing can pick it up and either learn something or find something interesting to do, to try, to, even if they've never smithed before. I have sections in here about building building a forge from nothing. And I'll have a whole heap of different projects that people can try. So that's what it's about. And I'm also going to have a bit of a rant in it about I won't say it's a rant in it. I'll have a section about having what your bare minimum needs for a smithy, and then by the end of the 1800s what back then was called an up to date smithy, right, or an up to date workshop, and I have a full list of tools. Or at least full description of the sorts of tools that they would have had in there. For example, of course, you got your forge, your anvil, and your hammers and tongs, and they would have had their hardy tools. They had drill presses. They had corking machines for putting corks in horseshoes, tenon and woodworking machines, band saws. Oxyacetylene welders, electro welders, power run emery or grinding machines, and mechanical cutting shears for cutting bits of metal. What else would they have? Electric lighting. Electrical or belt run blowers and bellows systems, all that type of thing. People that turn around and go, you're not a traditional blacksmith unless you're doing X. It's like, well, I can say from my research that is absolute BS. Absolute BS. So because people forget that these were they were craftsmen, but they were also businessmen. It's like telling an electrician not to use techniques from the 1800s in today's society. They didn't do that. It was like, this is a business. They were doing it to make money. They were doing it for, sure, some of them were also doing it for their own pleasure, but it was a mark of respect and respectability to have the most accurate and up to date methods. For their workshops. But yeah. And I mean, that wasn't across the board. Great work could be done with minimal tools, and we all know that. But at the end of the day, it's the smith makes the metal, not the smith makes the tools, not the tools don't make the smith. You can get a lot done with minimal tooling, but it makes a hell of a lot easier if you have the right tooling. Yeah, that's it. And I mean, let's see if I can pick the camera up. That's my bookshelf. Like I've got heaps of books. It's a little bit out of sorts at the moment. I've even got blacksmithing books right there. I've got shit all over the joint. But yeah, I try and, let me just see, make sure I'm back in frame. Yep, cool. But yeah, I've got books all over the joint, but I'm a very much a hardcover or a hard book person, because it's too easy to lose information on a screen. Yeah, okay, I might actually be able to do that on here. Yeah, Alexis, you actually might have to walk me through it. Hang on. Add as moderator. There we go. You should have a blue wrench there, Alexis. Oh, I'd love a metal bandsaw too there, Kevin. And I don't know if you're Aussie as well, but trying to get them here, geez, they're expensive. Sometimes I wish we had something like Harbour Freight. We kind of do in the sense of in the sense of Bunnings. Bunnings is probably very similar to Harbour Freight, but they just don't have that broad range of shit. But yeah, having a metal bandsaw would be absolute gold. Even for just general fabrication, it would be gold. Okay, so 429, that's where I'm going next. Drop the R in that, Debaka, and it's an entirely different word. Good old Yank, that's alright. I won't hold that against you. Some of my good friends are Yanks. You know what? Touch wood. I haven't actually had to ban many people, thankfully. I've had I'm lucky in that, and I'm very blessed in that sense. I'm hoping I don't that streak continues. I'm sure it won't, but I am hoping. I try and maintain a good and happy outlook, to avoid the necessity of that sort of thing. 431. There we go. See, and this is one of the things I'm talking about things they used to do that we just don't. It's unbelievable. Cyanide hardening. I mean, I'm sure it's a very, very good method, but my God. I'm going to put it in the book just for the historical aspect of it, and of course, there are people who work with gold, for example, that have the ability to at least try it. But yeah, talk about yeah, even just for the fumes. Ugh, I hate to think about it. Yeah, see, it's not. Look, if I go, if you guys are on my internet, so if I go, so Bunnings. Let's see if that actually transferred over. Yep, right. So, I can get a little Aceto one, which, yeah, it's got absolutely no power, right? Total Tools, yeah. Probably better off going to Sydney Tools. Let's go into the website. Have a quick look-see. Yeah, see, and then, you know, like, even if I go sort by price, nope, sort by price, for a decent one, right, that's, you know, that's a scroll saw, that doesn't even count, right, so benchtop bandsaw, yeah, right, that's 430, right, and these are all, you know, benched. That's a portable one. That's, you're starting to get that, but that's, you know, $650. That's 1,000. Starting to get in your freestanding ones. I'm looking at, you know, $1,200, which is not cheap. Not cheap at all. I mean, you know, of course you get what you pay for. You know, buy cheap, it's gonna be cheap, but you know. I use a good old angle grinder as well. Angle grinder with stainless steel discs, or discs for cutting stainless steel, and that gives me nice thin cuts. And you know, you've got to mark things out. You know, measure twice, cut once type thing. But I prefer that. Yeah, as you can see, they start very quickly getting very, very expensive. So, in the words of my friend Josh, tis what it is. Did I save that one? That was 431. 431. I did. Okay, cool. See, you guys can get, you know, a decent sized bandsaw in the US for a couple $100. You know, a couple hundred being relative. They're just, you know, to get a half decent one here, you know, I'm looking at upwards of, you know, $600-700, and that's one that's not a scroll saw. So. I'll have one day. One day. That's the plan. Fair enough. It's I just use the just the stainless steel cut off discs. But on that same note, I've been using an angle grinder since I was about 13, and I learned from a very early age how to control an angle grinder well and to let the disc do the cutting. Don't let the weight of the grinder drop on whatever you're cutting, but you know, control it and let the disc, you know, cut, as opposed to try and force it through. A lot of people for some reason, they can't hold an angle grinder square, and they also try and force the cut, and that of course results in biting blades and exploding blades and all sorts. So. And the only time I've ever broke blades is when I've been in, like Alexis was saying, when I've been impatient and been trying to force the cut. Or, alternatively, I've also been cutting wrong and it's come down and actually pinched the blade. Ah, thank you, Mr. Barker. And as usual, I stopped to think and forgot to start again. There we go. Why is that back to front? That's weird. No matter.
It doesn't matter.
475. Is there any more? There's that ad again. Is there any more interesting adverts on this one? Love the old cartoons too. Don't get them very often, but $4.75. That's right. I only wanted that one because the other page was useless. And, well, here's another interesting thing. They've actually banned 9-inch angle grinders here in Australia. They classify them as too dangerous. So, I've still got one. But, you apparently can't get them anymore. Which means I might have to order my discs for them from overseas. At some time in the future. Not that I use my 9-inch one very often. But I've still got one. That's what I used to cut up the forklift time for Tiny before I welded it together with my Gorilla Snot weld. $4.95. And for those of you who don't know, Tiny was my fabricated anvil that I made when I first started this part of my blacksmithing journey. Yeah, I did. Anvils are rare as hen's teeth up here, if not rarer, and I couldn't get one for anywhere near a decent price. And I'm talking like, an average anvil up here starts at $2,500. So I fabricated one out of a forklift tine. Of course, forklift tines are generally 4140 or better, and they're heat treated. They're tough metal anyway. So I'll cut one up and made myself an anvil. And if you're here, you can probably check that out on my previous videos. I think of a 2 or 3 part series, maybe a 4 part series. Yeah, this 9-inch. I think it's 9-inch. Might be 7-inch. I can't remember. I don't do Imperial's hard. Imperial measurements are freaking confusing. Some people call this 6 inches. Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. It's better than railway track. And yeah, my Tiny, which is what I called my anvil, it was, I think it worked out to be about probably about 70 kilos, which I think is about 140 pounds. So it wasn't light. It was a heavy. It is a heavy, substantial anvil. But yeah, no, good. I love it. I'm still, when I put my new workshop together. I mean, I've got a quote unquote proper London pattern anvil now. It was given to me as my wedding present. But I fully intend on putting Tiny in my new workshop and keeping it and still using it. You know, I've absolutely loved that anvil. Now, even if I just use it as a striking anvil, absolutely it'll be still living in my shop. And I'll still do videos and everything on it because it's part of my heritage. But it also, particularly if Wilson, which is the guy that I'm doing lessons with, if he hangs around and becomes my apprentice, you know, it will be I'll let him use it, and that will be so he can see, you know, having a quote unquote proper anvil is, you know, all well and good, but you know, I've got a bic iron for tiny, you know, that I did all of my bending on up until I got, you know, this London pattern. So, you know, there's no excuse not to be able to do the work if you make you know, need a tool, make a tool. Yeah, and like I said, Kevin, you don't need a horn, right? You make a bic iron, and you can do everything that you need a horn for on the bic. Yeah, that was just I'll work out the actual so because it's 70 kilos. So if I go kg to US, yeah, so it's 2.2 pounds. So it's 70 kilos. Yeah, so 154 odd pounds, I think from memory. Don't quote me on it. I know it's freaking heavy. It might be more than that, but I never actually really weighed it. I just know it was heavy as heck. So yeah. I didn't need it to be super. I didn't need it to weigh it because it was kind of like it was heavy enough for me to work on, and that's all that mattered. Okay. Oh, 510, that's why. Here I am typing in 570, wondering why it's not going to let me go, and it's 510. What would make a good material recycle for what? There, Kevin? You have to be. I'm not sure. I'm not. I'm not. One day I'll learn the English. Good thing I speak Australian. Yeah, you have to be a bit more specific there, man. I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. All right, download rust proofing ironwork. I made mine, surprisingly, I made mine out of a piece of 28 millimeter rebar. So, hang on, that's over an inch. So, yeah, 1.1 inch. Not sure how that actually works out in, 1 and 1/4 inch or whatever it is, but 1.1 inch rebar. That's what I made mine out of, and it held up to like I shaped down the tip, bent it into a 90-degree, used the hardy hole that I had, and it did everything. It literally did everything that I needed to do. I made everything. If you look back at my old videos, I made the locking mechanism and everything for the ball and chain. I made I think I made a video on actually making it. But yeah, I did bottle openers, all sorts of stuff on it. I've done heaps of stuff on it. Made chain on it. Help get the weld for chains on it. So all sorts of things. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can that side of the rebar is actually used in supports and stuff like that for bridges and overpasses and whatnot. It's very common. Particularly if you can get onto a large construction site, or get on some guys that work on large construction sites and just tell them that's the size you need, and you'll be able to get. They're always or even a reinforcement joint. They've always got offcuts of it. Anything under, in my experience, and I used to work for a reinforcement company. Anything under a meter long, particularly of the larger sizes like that, is scrapped. No, Tiny's only one forklift time debacle. I just cut it up. It's only one. I've still got another forklift time up in my shipping container that I will eventually probably cut up and use for making hammers. But yeah. So with with rebar that size, it is used for bridges and stuff like that. Generally anything, particularly under 1/2 meter, but anything generally under a meter, which is 3 foot. So anything under 1.5 foot is generally scrapped or turfed. So you could walk into a reinforcement supplier and say, hey, have you guys got any 1 1/8 or 28 mil? Because it goes, the sizes go 20 mil, 24 mil, which is 1 inch. Then you got 28, 32, and 38 millimeter. And 38 millimeter is huge. It's like that big. But yeah, so yeah, probably 28 to 32 will probably do your best. And then you can make all sorts of wonderful things. I've still got pieces of 28 mil floating around somewhere. I'm a hoarder for steel. I've got bits of pieces floating around. So the back of that forklift tine I cut into, I think it was 1, 2, 4 sections, I believe it was, and then welded it all together. Yeah, it is tough. I think it's 50. It's either 4140 or 5160. It is hard stuff. And you got to get it really hot to work it too. And did I save that? That's the question. It's downloaded, but I hadn't saved it yet. All right, cool. Daniel Moose from the UK. He regularly makes hammers and stuff out of that from forklift tine. So, is that done? Right, so now I want to go, that's all them, back to there, to there, Why didn't I just... okay. Nincompoop. I'll just do that. I'll go straight to what I want. That is 100646481. No, and that well, it doesn't matter. You don't. It's not. You don't want something that will harden for the big. You're not hardening it. You work it. Let it cool down to a black heat, and then you can quench it. It's fine. The thing about rebar's not bad. Rebar gets a really bad rap. But you got to remember, reason why rebar is really good for bic iron and stuff like that is because rebar is designed to be tough. It's used in bridges and all sorts of stuff. It's designed to be tough. It's not high carbon steel tough, but it's not mild steel tough. It is like a sausage of steels in the sense of, it's got all sorts of stuff mixed in. But that's because it's specifically designed to be tough. It's designed to hold up buildings. It's designed to hold up bridges. It's designed to carry a lot of stress. So, in use for stuff like a bic iron and whatnot, it's perfect. And it's like a hot cut tool, like a hardy tool. It doesn't need to be hardened. It's so yeah. It is. You don't need to harden it. It just needs to be tough. You also got to remember that it's like with tongs. If for example it bends out of shape or whatnot, heat it up and reshape it. You're a blacksmith. That's what it's about. So yeah. And like you said, yeah, you're not really quenching it where it's going to get hard. If you're working your bic to the point where it gets to red hot, you're doing something wrong. Or you're working too fast. So yeah. Okay. That was a bit silly. I forgot to put which volume. Which issue? Okay. But yeah, so yeah, like even my first hot cut was made out of that same piece of 28mm rebar, because you're not hardening it. It takes, in the event you do a mist strike or something like that, you want your hot cut to be softer than your hammer face, so that you don't damage your hammer face if you miss strike, but also it's going to take you 2 seconds to put a new edge on it, as opposed to trying to grind off your hammer face, and you're cutting hot material. So even if you hardened it, you're going to lose that hardness, and you're going to temper it out every time you put that hot piece of steel on to cut it. So it needs to be tough. It doesn't necessarily need to be hard. G'day Shane, how's it going? It is midday here, really. It's 11:44, going to lunchtime. So yeah, so with a hot cut you don't really need to harden it. Tools like cold cuts though, in cold sets, they should be hardened. Is because they've got to be harder than the metal, the material you're cutting through, and they've got to retain that edge, right? So your cold cuts, of course, they've got a different set of angles and stuff to them as well, but your cold cuts need to be hardened. Yep, they will be hard. I tried to drill some, so I'm come from a family, and in my region, we have a lot of hard rock mining, particularly open cut. So ball mills are a regular thing for breaking down the blue rock, that the blue granite that holds the materials. So I got hold of one of them for the ball and chain, and my God, was it hard. Like, there's hard metals, and then there's these things. And they're ridiculously hard. So, yeah. So, I don't... yeah. All I can say, if you're going to end up forging them, get them screaming hot. Get them near to white hot. Because otherwise, your hopes of forging them are next to none. They're ridiculously hard. And tough. But they also make really great tools. They're impact resistant. Let's go. Is it 170 in this one? Or is it 170 in this one? Let's have a look. It's this one. Okay, so let's go. Yeah, not that one. Yep, no, absolutely. I've got a couple of plans that are going into this book as well, about power hammers. I've also got a personal design for a non-powered. It's not a trip hammer, but it's a inline hammer. But I've got the pictures in my head, and I've got some of them drawn down, but I don't know if they're actually going to work yet. So I've got to build it. I'm one of those hands-on engineers. In the process of building something, it helps me work out how it works. So for some things, if I built something similar before, then generally I've got an idea. But I've got to build this thing all to make sure that it works the way I think it's going to work. I'm fairly certain it will, but I'm not 100% sure, so I've got to build it first. But if I do it, then it's going to be one of those things that just about anyone can build with just about nothing. And yeah, it'll be interesting. That's another project I got coming up as well. Now, that was... I'll just copy that. Copy. Rename. There we go. Excuse me, I'm getting a phone call from someone. Just a moment. Hello? Hello? That's me. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, g'day. Yep. What's up? Why is that? Who? Right. I don't have the space here at the moment. I've got nowhere for you. I'll do it. I'll do a bit of a call around, right? And see what I can do. Okay. All right. See ya. Anyway. What was I doing? That's what I was doing. And lucky I didn't answer the phone how I normally answer it. I normally say Tony's Grill and Crematorium, you know. You off them, we chop them. Because I didn't recognise the number, but alrighty. Now I've got to see. What other information I need? Yeah, it's pretty much it. Hello, hello. I live in a rural area, so the reception out here isn't always the best. And I'm also inside. I get better reception when I'm outside, but you know, I'm inside, so it is what it is. Right, so I'm going to go back to that. Yeah, that's pretty much, that's the one, Kev. See you, DeBarker. Have a good one. Well, considering I've been on here for nearly, 2 hours, or over 2 hours. Yeah, over 2 hours now. I think it might be time to call it a day. So, thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And check out my previous videos. I don't have any here or here, but but yeah. Hope you enjoy. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch yous all later. You guys have a lovely evening. Enjoy your sleep. Or day, depending on where you are.